Jain, this video is about the debate of presidential elections of US. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris just had their first and last debate. I just received the news that Donald Trump has said that he's not going to further debate with Kamala Harris. The most interesting part is that it was also the first time they have ever met. Harris introduced herself with a gripped handshake. So I picked few pointers from this 105 minutes conversation focusing how do they propose to approach the world. Now Trump said if she doesn't like them they should have gone out and immediately cutting the tariffs. Now something interesting on their eminent trade partner China. Looks like they do feel threatened and they keep having their countermeasures. I will also share my previous links of the video giving information how about the trade with US and how are they framing frameworks and how are they emphasizing on the frameworks while having trade with China. So coming back to Trump's statement, Harris had criticized Trump's proposed 10 to 20% blanket tariffs imports as effectively being a sales tax contributing to US inflation. So Trump's above point in response was that the Biden administration has kept and expanded his own earlier tariffs on China. And maybe that's a semi-nice point here. Everyone in DC seems to concur on the US needing tougher approach to the way China trades. Now Harris' statement, I'm quoting, he's ended up selling America's chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military. Harris was highlighting, by contrast, the Biden administration's escalating tech exports control. China may now finding a clever way by China to avoid these difficulties or these routes. Now, Trump notes that most chips are made in Taiwan, but I know and we all know that they are also made with the US tech, which is mostly how US law gets involved. So this chip warfare is a very big game for these tech giant nations, and it does indicate a lot of things geopolitically. One small microchip is capable of 5 to 7 nanometer in chip size and speeds of 1.5 to 2 gigahertz, and 1 gigahertz is a billion clock cycle second. It is capable of less power. Smaller chips are also less power than larger chips, and smaller chips can even provide more computing power, lower carbon footprints. So the stakes are really very high whether to decide whether they should compromise or they favor the other nation. Now Trump, I'm again quoting, Iran was broke under Trump. Iran had no money to Hamas for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of these 28 different spheres of terror. Here Trump was referring to his policy of maximum pressure on Iran and arguing that Biden's back channel steps to re-engage Iran on its nuclear program. He meant that this empowered Iran to throw more money to these groups like Hamas, and that really attacked Israel, which is a US ally. Now Harris reiterated her pledge from DNC last month that she will always give Israel the ability to defend itself. Why? I will share perspective here. America's enemies and Israel enemies were always the same, whether it was Nazism, whether it was communism, whether it was Islamist extremism. But the lacuna here is for how long and whose economic interests are getting fulfilled here in today's era. That interests the world and that interests us, and I'm hopeful Europe takes some sensible brainstorming for their own good. I made a short yesterday indicating Europe's economic growth or whether it's declining. Now Harris, I again quote, why don't you tell 8 lakh Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor. Now Harris was claiming here that Trump's plan to end the Russia-Ukraine war is really just a plan to give up. And that's not who they actually are, who the Americans actually are. She said her point was there. If Putin was to win, Russia's next stop would again be Poland, which is a US ally. And these folks with Polish ties living in the state of Pennsylvania, So for his part, Trump wouldn't be drawn on direct questions around whether he wants Ukraine to win. Instead, he reiterated his claim that he wants the war to end. Now, this is a very strong claim and an assertive plan or desire of Trump to do, and this will or might be a reason for him to win or lose, because approximately 2 trillion US dollars are circulating in this war involving supplying of arms and ammunition, and lots of stakeholders, important stakeholders are involved here. Now, Trump, these people did the worst withdrawal and, in his opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of America's country, as their country. Now, this was Trump's description of the chaotic US withdrawal from Afghanistan, reiterating his assertion that it also inspired Putin to invade Ukraine because they saw how incompetent Biden administration was. Now, we witnessed the American army withdrawing or leaving Afghanistan. Harris said Trump negotiated the withdrawal deal directly with the Taliban, even invited the Taliban, a listed terrorist groups, to camp. Now, David, and that was the US now, but out of Afghanistan, few US soldiers now are losing their lives and abroad. Now, that's their take. Army leaving any territory or told to leave territory is not any army's win. Though I personally feel in the US political drama, US Army soldiers and their families would definitely be at respite of not getting deployed in Afghanistan. Now, an interesting one from Harris. I love the way, I'm quoting, I love the way they debate. Because sometimes it feel like, it needs to get quoted. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong, North Korean, barely rated a mention. Rather, Harris was cutting Kim and Putin's evidence that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for him to be a president again, because they are so clear that they can manipulate Donald Trump with flattery and favors, and Trump's response here is referring Biden's and Harris. He said that he said that leaders of other countries think that they are weak and incompetent, and they are. That's what Donald Trump said. And my personal analysis here is that Trump hadn't been victorious in any of his presidential debates in 2016 or in 2020. Korea and Russia thinking themselves to be weak is a very weak statement from Trump, and in today's context, no one will buy this. Russia and North Korea are all set to create crisis. This ambiguity in their security pact is intended to keep the United States and its allies uncertain about what might trigger the mutual defense clause. I will make a separate video on the defense clause of these two nations. But now, who won? The initial market survey responses are on balance suggesting that it was Harris last time that they gave Trump over Biden. Now, my personal thought, will we see another debate? Of course, no. Trump has already said, and his supporters were highly frustrated. But now, does these debates change anything? Does it change the trajectory of elections? In 2016, Hillary Clinton was mostly deemed the winner of all three debates back in that year. But then, who won the elections? America's elections are important for the world to shape the geopolitical order. It impacts everyone. And that's why Team MND chose this topic to their audience. Stay tuned. Jai Hind.